to explain this to you so that it's clear. Having identity on the protocol isn't done in a way where there's identity being leaked or your personal information is getting out there. So we're all used to kind of doing the KYC that is common in process these days. You take your driving license or your passport, you take a photo of it, then you do like a selfie of your video and whatnot, and you send it to an identity provider who verifies that, yeah, the person in the video is indeed the one that is in this document. Now, that's normal practice. That's what we do. The difference here is when that information comes back to us, that's already signed by a specific key that is owned by that identity provider. That information doesn't go on the chain, right? That comes to you and stays in your device, and it's in your control. What does go on the chain is just a commitment that validates the information that's in your device. So if I was to change my date of birth and make me 21, because it'll be really good, you'll know straight away because it will match what's the information on the chain. Now, because we have this setup, it means out of the box, we can do zero knowledge proofs really easily, right? We have SDKs that allow you to basically ask my device, is Peter 18 years old? Yes or no? And I will do all the calculations that is necessary and send you back a proof that will say, yes, indeed, he is over 18. And I don't look it, but apparently I am. So what you'll be able to do is actually pick this up and validate it against the information that's on the chain. And that way gives you confidence that indeed this is true and the zero knowledge proof stands. Now, throughout this whole thing, there is no personal information that is given to you or to publicly or available on the chain for anyone to know that it was me. It's the same if there's transactions happening on the chain. If I send in money from my account to Boris's account, you don't see that it's me, Peter, sending it to Boris. All you see is just a transaction that's on the chain between two addresses. Now, this keeps it nice and private, right? So why is the identity layer there? It's there for the zero knowledge proof, and it's also there for accountability. And we do this through the disclosure process that we have. And let me explain it very quickly to you. And we will go into detail into everything that I'm going to be saying today in the coming weeks and months. As Boris said, we're going to have a lot of communication that comes out from us. Today, I'm going to try to keep it at a relatively high level. So the disclosure process is if there is a legal justification for my activities to be revealed as to who it is. The process is you get a warrant from a court in Switzerland that says, I need to find out who this address belongs to, right? That is then taken to one of our lawyers who have a special key that can come and open up the encrypted object that is the commitment that lives on the chain. Now, all they'll see is the fact that there's a number here. There's a IDP identifier here. So they don't see my name. They don't see anything that's specifically personal to me either. They can take that number. They know which IDP it was that generated it. They will go to that IDP and they'll say, do you know who this identifier is? And the IDP will obviously check the warrant and go, yep, that is indeed Peter, right? And then that's how they know it's me and the account that is associated to me. Now, you might think, well, the IDP knows it's Peter all the time and can look on the chain and see what's going on. The reality is the IDP can't see that number because it's hidden, encrypted, and locked with the key that the lawyer has. So you can see how amazingly these guys have created this whole process, right? Where everything just works and everyone is protected at the right level. And in order to manipulate it or to get to my personal information, it's a lot of effort. Fantastic design, very unique. Really kind of the reason why I joined and was very fascinated by what we're going to be able to do with this chain. Doesn't stop there. We also have a fork-free consensus mechanism. I'll take very quick to explain this to you. So in a few chains and other chains, what you have is all these nodes agreeing on what the next block looks like. They all sign, they all agree, etc., and move on. Sometimes what will happen is they will get disjointed from each other. So they're not actually talking to each other, but they will carry on generating these blocks. So what you'll have is two groups. One group is creating block 59, 50, 60, 61, and so is another group. So you've got two 59s and 60s and 61s. At some point when they talk to each other again, they'll realize that they don't have the same transactions. And now here comes a whole battle as to kind of, well, which group wins, right? Everything happens, it's all in part of the protocol, but in essence, one of them will lose. And what will mean is if your transaction is in that block that group created, gets lost. You've lost your fees and you got to do the transaction all over again. We don't have that. right? We do not fork. We just simply pause, wait for everybody to come back online, and then carry on going forwards. And if necessary, we'll just sign a timeout and wait for until there's enough consensus available on the chain to carry on, right? So you don't lose your transactions, which means we have fast finality, right? When we say something is recorded on the chain, it's recorded on the chain. In the other chains, what you have to do is wait a few blocks, sometimes up to 8 blocks, before you are kind of confident that, okay, do you know what, my transaction isn't going to get dropped. So with the fast finality, with the fork-free consensus and identity all built in, it really sets us up very nicely for payments. On top of that, we have managed to do 2,000 transactions per second on the chain. But we want to do things better. We want to make it 100 times better. So let me start, and bear with me here. There's quite a lot of things that we're going to be doing in 2025. What we want to do is, as Boris said, bring on stable coins, right? But we don't want to bring them on into smart contracts, which is where everywhere else it is, right? There is vulnerabilities associated to smart contracts. It creates a honeypot. It's a perfect target for people to start hammering at it, because that's where the value is. We want to bring stable coins into our protocol layer, right? So we're going to launch what we're calling the protocol level tokens. Now, these aren't the same as CCDs, so we're not going to derail CCD. All your fees and all your rewards are still going to be in CCDs, and the chain carries on as it is. But what we are going to do is allow stablecoin issuers to be able to actually mint and burn on the ledger itself at the protocol level, which means your balances and your accounts are no longer held in a smart contract, but actually at the ledger itself in your wallet, in your device, right? Now, lots of benefits, which I will explain in the coming slides. One of the ones to remember is the fact that we will be able to do the relatively straightforward sending it, receiving it, and holding it at the ledger level, right? Now, you will also be able to say that you can't really fake the token. At the moment, on some chains, it's very possible to have a smart contract that is named the same units, same labels, same icons, same everything, but the only difference is the address, which makes a big difference, because one of them is the right one and one of them is not the right one. And if you buy those ones, well, sorry, you just lost your money. So you won't be able to do that with our chain, because each one is identified uniquely with a unit. Moving on. Boris was talking about how some of these stablecoins have this restriction where, you know, it does depend on geographically where you are or which consistency you belong to, right? So we have zero knowledge proofs available to us. We just explained it. It's in the chain. It is integrated closely to it. It's not a bolt-on. It's not an add-on. It's literally in the protocol. Now we've added our PLTs to this. So there is no reason why we can't use it to make sure that the geofencing exists around the coin. So it'll be very straightforward. If there is a restriction on an individual can't hold these tokens in a location, it can be very easily asked, are you, with a zero knowledge proof against it, is this individual in that location, yes or no? Once you've got the clearance that the conditions are met and you're happy, that's the only time this individual will now be able to hold that coin, which means anybody on the Concordium chain, right, would have this check done against them. They will be almost like in a whitelist that will then allow them to hold this token. So you know, it doesn't matter where they get it from or how they get it, that they are indeed within your restrictions. It's an amazing thing to be able to claim and do and build. We don't want to stop there. This one's really my favorite. It actually really excites me, because it's the first time I think we're going to get there where Boris is laughing. It is very exciting for me because I really want to get it to this point, right? And I think we can do it in 2025. It's the equivalent of, if you remember, and you're as old as I am, the Amazon buy now button, right? It was revolutionary for the time, because it just meant you click once and everything happens in the background. You as a consumer have a great benefit. Merchants have a great benefit. You sell your stuff, I just receive it. It's the same thing here. We have a lot going on right now in the news and in the domains that you can see with regulations coming about keeping content and things in the right hands, right? We want things to be kind of adult proof to a certain extent, right? You can see on the left, social media access, gambling, adult content, tobacco, even weapons. There's a massive news today here on the BBC that says, there's a whole law that's changing to make sure that you can't sell knives to under 18-year-olds, right? This is all happening. This is true right now. So what's happening is merchants have to either spend more money so that they know for sure that they're, the people are 18-year-olds. You have to now give up your information, your passport details, or your driving license to these merchants that you're trying to buy something from. And how many times you're going to do that everywhere, right? How many people you're going to give your passport and personal information to? Not to mention the cost and the restriction that is coming on all the merchants. We will be able to do our zero knowledge proof, take a payment with the stable coins, all on the same chain with one button. So you literally rock up, put whatever you want in your merchant's basket, press a button at the end that says verify and buy. You'll get a ping on your device that says this shop wants to verify your age and pay X amount. You just simply say yes. And everything happens in the background, right? And that is a fantastic place to be at. And that is, for me, the first time you're actually crossing over the line to a real world problem, right? Where we're actually helping and solving the scenario that these merchants have